Well, I do have to wonder what will be brought up more during the midsummer June 27th Biden Trump debate as it pertains to Biden going after Trump. Will it be January 6th, which we originally thought that was going to be the number one thing Biden brought up, or will it be now the fact that Donald Trump, even though it's a total sham, and I've got several videos talking about it, will it be the fact that Donald Trump is technically a convicted felon? I think it's going to be a combination of those two things. And when you think about Donald Trump and his outstanding court cases, none of them likely to be resolved before the 2024 election, with all of the legal mud and the appeals that I'm sure Trump's legal team will use. We're going to be talking about January 6th. I want to discuss it. I've seen basically every video revolving January 6th, and the comparison to BLM, it's crazy. Let's actually discuss January 6th BLM and really the big stuff that came out yesterday. Nancy Pelosi admitting on video, this was something that was released by the GOP yesterday, that she is at fault for refusing to secure the Capitol on January 6th. Quote, "I take responsibility for not having the Capitol Police prepare for more." And so that was always the number one big question when it came to January 6th. Of course, the sham Democrat committee that really no one cared about. Of course, when it comes to the fully Democrat January 6th sham committee, they didn't care about the police response or lack thereof, because heaven forbid that would help Donald Trump. Let's not be impartial about having a committee and wasting millions of dollars in taxpayer money. Let's just go after Trump, and anything that doesn't hurt Trump, heaven forbid, help Trump, let's not discuss it. It's all Trump. Trump caused all of this, even though, I mean, there's so much evidence. You've got Trump giving his speech right next to the White House, telling people to go be peaceful. Trump wanted to go to the Capitol and speak at the Capitol with his supporters. While he was speaking, he said he was going to do that. He gets in his motorcade, and his top advisor says, "No, you can't do that. It's not safe." He cusses him out, and then Trump is forced to go back to the White House. But Trump wanted to go to the Capitol with his supporters. He said at around noon, 12:30, "Go be peaceful, march to the Capitol, it's fine." The supporters were already going to the Capitol and starting to break through while Trump was still speaking. And Trump's plan was saying, "Look, we're going to be peaceful. Go up there. I'm joining you. I'm going to go speak up there." He gets in his car and they're telling him, "No, it's unsafe. You're going back to the White House." And then Trump at about 2 o'clock releases a statement saying, "You got to calm down." His son apparently texted one of Trump's top advisors saying he needs to condemn this ASAP. And you've even got Stewart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers, one of the biggest people that got 18 years in prison. Stewart Rhodes in a messenger app saying before they entered the Capitol that Trump is not doing enough. It's a letdown of a speech, and they need to take matters into their own hands. So you've got the leader of the Oath Keepers admitting before they break into the Capitol that Trump isn't doing enough. They've got to go alone. They've got to act alone, not at the behalf of Trump, but by themselves. And Trump says, "Be peaceful," and then puts out a statement. People forget that Trump tweeted at about 2 o'clock saying, "This is not good. You need to be peaceful." Liberals only remember, Trump coming out with a video at 4:15 or 4:20, whenever it was, at the White House, where he fully denounced it and said, "Go home." And he did say the election was stolen. There's nothing wrong with saying an election's stolen. He was within his rights to say that. You can say, well, the speech is reckless, it's dangerous, but there's just no, in terms of January 6th, people are confusing the timeline of what happened, and Trump wanting to go to the Capitol and getting told no, he had to go back to the White House, and then putting out a statement in a tweet at 2 o'clock, and then fully condemning it at 4 o'clock and telling people to go home. There is no indication that Trump told people to go to the Capitol and break in. And then for the people that think Trump wanted to somehow, like, I'm just trying to understand, if Trump really wanted his supporters to break into the Capitol, why would he not, when he saw them on his TV, getting around the Capitol, why would he not tell them, get in there and cause havoc and really, rile them up? He never did any of that. He's got his people right up against the Capitol. He doesn't energize them at all. He wanted to go speak at the Capitol, and there wouldn't have been any problems if he did that. But actually, the big issue is Trump is speaking and the supporters are already going to the Capitol. He's saying be peaceful as his supporters are at the gates about to break into the Capitol with extremely limited police presence, and they break through that first barricade extremely easily. The police are outnumbered like 500 to 1. And now Nancy Pelosi comes out and admits, and this is all like it's so dumb. The Democrats play this game where it's like, it's the worst thing in history. No, it's great for the Democrats. They get to use January 6th, and they've been abusing it for the past 3 years as political leverage over Republicans. And they get to clutch their pearls and say, it's the worst thing in history. And they say it without hyperbole that it's worse than 9/11. They've said that. And I'm a 9/11 historian, and it's, 9/11 was, listen, if anyone actually thinks January 6th was worse than 9/11, I want to show you the video of the first people re-entering the World Trade Center complex after the North Tower collapsed, when it's still smoky, and you can see the remnants, and you can tell me if January 6th is worse than 9/11, but no, but they say it and they're serious. They're like, oh, because it was a threat to democracy, and then they jazz it up and it's the worst thing ever. And Trump comes out and says a few days later that, yes, the transfer of power will be peaceful. Biden was scheduled to be sworn in on January 20th. He gets sworn in on January 20th. There's no delay. They did the votes with Mike Pence that night. Yes, it was later. Yes, it was a stain in terms of America. Trump didn't want that. But you can't sit there and blame Trump and say he's the reason for it when he's saying go be peaceful. And his people are saying you can't go to the Capitol to speak there. He had to go back to the White House, and then he puts out a tweet at 2 o'clock and then fully condemns it at 4 o'clock. None of Trump's statements on January 6th, the only thing you can say, well, because he said it was stolen, he energized his base to do it. You've got one of the leaders of the entire thing, Stuart Rhodes, in a message saying, as Trump is speaking, while he's listening to Trump, he's saying, Trump, it's a letdown of a speech. We're on our own. We have to do this. He's not doing good enough because Trump was saying, go be peaceful. There's no extra pressure from Trump to ignite his base to really be forceful into the Capitol. It's actually the opposite. And then you've got all the informants. You've got all the stuff with Ray Epps. Ray Epps is the first person the day before January 6th on camera saying we need to go. And it's crazy when you watch that video at night. It's like, it's almost a movie. He's like, we need to go in to the Capitol. The first person to say it, Ray Epps, the ground zero of January 6th. He says it on January 5th at night. And it's a movie. There's people surrounding Ray Epps calling him a Fed on January 5th. Before the event happens, they're calling him a Fed. And then liberals try and do this thing where it's like a year later, and all the conservatives are like, what is going on with Ray Epps? How does he only get 6 months? Why did it take this long to indict him? Why did he get special treatment to where he gets his name taken off of the FBI most wanted list? You would think with the way liberals are with this stuff, trying to get Trump when he didn't even say anything, Ray Epps would be their number one guy. He is on camera January 5th saying go into the Capitol. And then you can see him on the 6th just up at the front right as they're about to break through the first barrier. So there's just so much crap with January 6th that's been distorted. And they're going to try and use it, and they're going to try and fearmonger. And it's the ultimate hypocrisy. It's just like Antifa calling them anti-fascist when they're the most fascist organization in the United States. Name me another organization that gathers in masks and intimidates people and physically assaults people. The Proud Boys don't do that nearly as much as Antifa does, and they call themselves anti-fascist. It's total hypocrisy. It's just like Biden saying we have to protect democracy by taking the number one opposing candidate off of the ballot, even though he's beating me in every state, because that's going to protect democracy. And these are all things that they're going to try and argue when it comes to January 6th. And obviously, they're also going to do the whole Trump's a felon. I think they overplayed their hand with that. People are starting to realize how ridiculous it is. They were desperate. And it's already come out that Alvin Bragg, his prosecutors told him, listen, there's nothing there. And Alvin Bragg is like, listen, this is my campaign promise. I mean, this is how corrupt it is. Alvin Bragg campaigns on the idea that he's going to get Trump, and he has to do all this legal crap with these charges to upgrade them. His prosecutors come to him and say, look, there's really nothing here. And then he says, I don't know what to tell you. I told the people that I was going to get Trump. So just do whatever you have to do to get this elevated. It's all crap. They overplayed their hand on the felony charge. There's no victims. Stormy Daniels, I'm sure, this is just what I think, she gets the payment from Trump. Democrats probably paid her a lot more so she would talk. It's obvious. And she ends up talking, of course. And then it gets so bad during the trial in New York where everyone's like, this is pathetic. This is a show trial. Nobody cares about it. I think Democrats had to go to Stormy Daniels and be like, look, you need to start just making stuff up because no one cares about it. And then Stormy Daniels comes out and says, it might not have been consensual with Trump, when she's on camera multiple times saying, no, it was. And that was my job in terms of having sexual relations with Trump. So that's what's going on. And then how about the other stuff? This just goes to show you how ridiculous it is. You go to the January 6th page, and this is just how much they control Google, and it's the connotation, and it's the brainwashing that you don't realize. You can see the news. It's such a ridiculous connotation. 0 Trump supporters killed anyone. And then you go to the BLM riot page, which Axios came out about a year and a half ago and admitted it was the most expensive riot in the history of the United States. It was $2 billion or more. If you adjust it with Biden's inflation, it's probably about $2.5 billion with the 20% inflation we've had. $2.5 billion, at least 19 deaths in the BLM riots. And on top of that, the craziest thing, there were so many Democrat mayors of big cities that would not condemn the BLM riots because they were afraid of being labeled racist. And that all happened. And so that was 100 times worse than January 6th. All the numbers back it up. January 6th had $2.5 million in property damage to the U.S. Capitol. BLM had $2.5 billion. And then they say, oh, you're just simping for multi-billion-dollar corporations like Target that got their businesses burned down. Meanwhile, they're all taking out insurance policies. It comes back onto the consumer, it raises prices. It's not good when you've got $2.5 billion worth of damage. And then on top of that, one political party who's been just bullied with white guilt and they just hate themselves in June of 2020. And by the way, the George Floyd thing's just completely crazy. I knew the George Floyd thing was bullshit when I saw a video back in 2017. And I'm not even going to get into this because this is a whole nother video. But what the media has done, oh my God. They completely manipulated people into those riots, and just it was total media hysteria where they magnified a situation when it's happened to white people as well on camera back in 2017, where a fat white dude had his chest stepped on and weight put onto him by a police officer, to where the police officer was actually making fun of him on camera as he died. Nobody cares. Then 3 years later, it happens to a black dude and we get $2 billion in property damage and riots all over the place because the media controls how people think, unfortunately. And they magnify a situation, and that's how that happens. So, and then my overall point on that, you Google January 6th, you see a noose with the U.S. Capitol in the background, 0 Trump supporters killed anyone. And then you Google the BLM riots, and it's like all these different photos empowering with like U.S. flags, and there's some fires, but but it's just so much worse, and the connotation of it is just manipulation. It's so crazy. So January 6th, that's my take on it. There's a lot more, obviously, but Trump, he said be peaceful. He wanted to go to the Capitol and speak to his supporters, and if he actually got there, they would not have gone in because he said beforehand, go be peaceful. And his motorcade said, no, it's not safe. You have to go to the White House. And then he puts out a statement at 2 o'clock saying this is not good. You need to be peaceful and you need to respect the police officers. And then he puts out the video at 4 o'clock. So you cannot blame Trump. And even the Oath Keepers come out and admit in text messages, Trump didn't do enough. We had to take matters into our own hands. They're acting on their own volition. And that's the whole point when it comes to January 6th. So that's my opinion of it. And I'm sure Biden is going to absolutely hammer it. And now you've got this new thing coming out, Nancy Pelosi admitting there was a lack of police presence and it's her fault. She says it in a car. They're recording her. And then the sham January 6th committee leaves out all of the peaceful security footage We learned that when Tucker Carlson had to, show it on Fox News. He's like, this is crazy. Look at all this peacefulness. They didn't show any of it. They selected the clips that they wanted that made the Trump supporters and honestly the informants look as worse as possible. They tried to make the riot as bad as possible. And then they said, oh, we can't show some of the security because it's restricted. It would compromise the US. It's all bullshit. It's because it was very peaceful footage and they didn't want that coming off as like, oh, the riot was actually pretty peaceful. And then Tucker Carlson exposes it. So that is the gist of the January 6th riot. Notice not once did I use the word insurrection in this video. You want to talk about an insurrection? Yeah, those are really horrible people that want to kill everyone. They're walking in a straight line into the Capitol. I mean, look at all the security footage. They're like church boys. Oh yeah, it's an insurrection. It's terrible. They didn't even know what to do when they got in there. Trump's telling them to be peaceful. It's all a total sham. They have to blow it up and make it as bad as possible to try and gain political leverage over the right. And that's why the left loves January 6th. They're obsessed with it. They've tried to make it worse than 9/11, and it's just not going to work. And Biden is going to bring it up over and over and over and over again, and because he's got nothing else. I mean, they're going to say, and this is another narrative that's just totally false. Oh, the great economy. It's not a great economy. You have to adjust it for inflation. If you adjust Biden's economy for the crazy inflation rate that we've had under Biden, then his economy is performing in terms of just the stock market and raw numbers significantly worse than Trump. You have to adjust it for inflation. He does not have a robust economy. His numbers are being inflated by inflation, by them printing money. So everyone's like, oh, we got this great economy. No, it's a total mirage. It's not a great economy. It's just based off of inflation numbers. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.